Welcome to Picks with the Professor, a sports betting show hosted by a real statistics professor. Jake, it has been a hot second since we've been here, and I know there were some people asking some questions, so I guess we got to start off with that, right?
Yeah, unfortunately so. But, one
Unfortunately,
of those things.
that's the way it goes. As many of you had known from previously, if you've been with us for any time, I'll keep this short if you're new with us or just kind of finding us for the first time now here as we are into March Madness. Some complications at home with the little ones. And so life was a lot. And it was kind of a good news, bad news situation. At some time towards the end of the year, we realized if we did overnight feeds for him, he would start growing, getting bigger. And that was really the key for him to try not to fall too far behind and be in a real danger scenario where we were kind of in and out of the hospital at any turn. And the downside with that was he then was fussier overnight, which then cost me a lot of sleep. And there was just a lot happening there. So it was good news. It worked and things are looking a lot better with him. Bad news was there was just a lot of drain on me, a lot of anxiety. And I don't want to be honest and real with y'all because I've always been that way with y'all. And it was just kind of a lot. If you've been with us on Dub Club, you haven't missed a beat whatsoever with or without shows. And we've been lately on an NHL kick, making a ton of money over there. And so that's been a lot of fun, a lot of exposure for some new people, have some new workarounds here for college basketball, kind of a new and improved model here that we'll unveil. And so, we kind of are getting back into this now as something that I think is approachable. It'll only be one pick per show. Many of you are used to, days where we did 3, 4, 5, picks. We wouldn't cover every single game on a long college basketball slate. We're just going to do one that seems more approachable as we move forward, not wanting to kind of add too much to the plate. So if you like the new format, we'd appreciate a comment on that. If you miss the old format, you can say I miss longer shows and whatnot. Maybe we'll get back to them soon. We don't know. We don't want to just bite off too much that we could chew at the moment, Jake. But I know you are excited to get back talking about college basketball.
Look, I always love talking college basketball. My wife has been going nuts since we stopped because then she just gets all the lectures I like to give. So she is extremely happy we're back, so she doesn't have to hear it anymore.
That makes a lot of sense. Just thinking about my own relationship, I think a lot of people at home probably can feel the same way. So quick reminders, if you're new here for us, a reminder since it might have been a while, if you've only been kind of watching us here on the YouTube, it's a player-based model. Ratings reflect the current roster. There are some injury things. We'll talk about it here in this game. And that is important because that is reflected in the roster. The average grade is 100 higher, implies more points. Offenses want to be higher. Defenses want to be lower. We are projecting an average game. Unfortunately, one game is an unknown. There have been 900 weird results this college basketball season in, over 5,000 games. We always talk about it. It's all about the long run. We're only doing one pick here. We're diving a little bit deeper into one pick, but there's a full model of projections that can be used for picks for all the games. And that's what we focus on here. That's what we focus on, like for hockey, for instance, hockey coming up soon, Major League Baseball starting up. We crush it in football, and it wasn't about one game. It's all about the big picture. So if we're completely wrong on this, again, we don't know what's going to happen. We're saying an average game plays out a certain way. And in the long run, when that plays out with a well-calibrated model, that will help us make money. And so when we say 55% winners, we say, yeah, they're going to lose 9 out of 20 times. And that's a concept that we think we want to talk about here. We're not saying necessarily we're always going to be right, just that we can win more when we win than we lose when we lose. And that's what we always like to talk about, which leads us to anything's a good bet at the right price or the right number. The model, I have this on the board. It gives ABC. We don't quite have that yet on this. Just asterisk, just put a pin in that. And we'll come back to that at a future time. But if you do want to get all those hockey picks that we've got, full updated in college basketball model, the projections in comparison to some other models as well, an old tool people liked. And so bringing that back, you can get all of that over on Dub Club, and even a new feature, folks, a couple things here. So don't fast forward. Hopefully you haven't fast forwarded yet. A couple really important things. First off, we've got multiple other handicappers covering every single sport. We've got, someone over there on our Discord just killing it now, like 60 some odd %. in 200 picks. It's insane. People who are never betting college basketball are just tuning in and being like, I'm just blindly tailing this stuff and I'm making money left and right. Things like that, super important. That every gap can be filled with other people, other opinions is great to get included at no extra price. Projections, probabilities, all sorts of stuff, detailed notes, and a new low pricing, only $29.99 per month. In the link in the show description, that you half off your first month. So check that out today. The game we're going to talk about here, Cincinnati and Iowa State, Big 12 tournament. This one we played in Kansas City. A little bit of a potential home court advantage for Iowa State. If you know anything about the Big 12, you do know that, of course, playing this in Kansas City is a big advantage for Kansas, an advantage for Kansas State, but it's also a really big advantage to Iowa State. Historically, they have brought a lot of people over there. It's not that far of a trek, and so that's one thing to note. Of course, the other thing to know, Iowa State is a really good team. We think they're going to win by an average of about 10 points. We've got Iowa State, even with one of their better players listed as questionable, might play, might not play. Jake, you'll talk about that here in just a second. That factored in, still the 12th best team in the country compared to Cincinnati, who's not a bad team by any stretch of the imagination, but only number 52. That's a big discrepancy. So we're going to lay it with Iowa State. Here's the thing, Jake, earlier this number was 8. You liked it at 8. You said, let's do that. It's at 9.5, and you still like it at 9.5, and we're fine here. And that's what we always talk about. Price matters. And so as we talk about this game, of course, I want to know kind of what number you're playing it up to. Model says double digits here. What's your take on it?
The number I'll play it, the highest I'll play is 11.5. That's where I feel safe. I think Iowa State can and probably will get higher than that number. I just don't know how long they hold on to it, because in a regular season game, at a certain point, you pull back, you say, okay, you got me. Tournament, you got to play to the end, because you never know, because Cincinnati's probably not in. Probably not. So they're going to play through that final horn, so you don't want to be caught holding the bag with the Iowa State up 13, and then all of a sudden a late 3 goes in, and now you're holding on to a loser. Definitely think this is going double digits. Though, the last game these two teams played, Jizzle James absolutely on fire, but that was the last good game he's really had. He was 5 of 9 from 3 in that game. He hasn't made more than 3 in a game since then, and I think he only hit 3 once. It's been about a week and a half. I don't see them doing that. And I know Gilbert played that game, but I have a lot of faith in Nate Heisey. I'm not sure how to say his name. He stepped up in the Kansas State game, where on the road played 34 minutes. Even if Gilbert doesn't play, I don't expect him to. He's been playing 30-plus minutes a game, extra rest. Iowa State safely in a good seed. If he does, more power to us. We got a great number. It's just Iowa State does everything better than Cincinnati at every level, except for turnovers, but I think that's more of pace and style. The pace Iowa State likes to play at and the style they like to play gets a little hectic at the time. They hand the ball off a little more than they should, but Cincinnati's turnover numbers high when you start considering their pace, because they've got 13-ish turnovers a game, maybe 14, and they're playing at a slower pace, so that those possessions end up a lot more valuable. Iowa State out-rebounded them like crazy last time. That's something Cincinnati's been known for a while here. I think even through back to Mick Cronin offensive boards. Iowa State kind of ends that. That last game they played, tied at half. Iowa State wins by 11 all in the second half. I think we see the second half kind of repeated for first and second of this whole game, where Iowa State is handily ahead, doesn't really have to do too much, just moving on to the next game of the tournament, including the fact that Cincinnati played tonight. I think it makes it a lot more likely that we've got a double-digit win here.
So a few things I want to touch on there and loop back with you. The first one is about, you talked about, you don't want to be laying a number like 13 or 12 or something and it be 13, and then you'd be like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen here at the end, and stuff like that. I always think, one of the most frustrating things betting college basketball is that exact scenario, and it can happen at any number. And so I always say there's really 2 solutions to this, and one is to go to moneyline betting. And I don't think moneyline betting is necessarily a bad idea. I know most people just hate it. It is very uncomfortable. As someone who's dabbled in kind of doing it a little bit, it can be very uncomfortable with trying to figure out how to scale those wagers if you're taking some of those dogs and knowing you're going to lose a bunch, but the ones you win, will make up for it. So that's one option. The other option, though, and the one that applies to this right here, is make sure you get a good number. And that's why we always talk about, I'm not a huge believer in this closing line value. I'm more of a believer as just get the best number possible. Now, that's impossible to always do and always know, because no one ever knows where the number's going to go. But we always say just give yourself the chance to get a number that you're thrilled with and see where things are going. And this is why, it's been a little harder here now with the TBDs this week, but when we get to the tournament here, we will have the projections out almost right away for this as fast as possible, so that people can jump on an earlier line. And we always say, hey, if you end up in that situation we're talking about, where someone hits a stupid 3 at the end or whatever, and there was a better number available, the solution was you should have got the better number, right? And so that's the other thing here, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. It's so important, and many of you already know this, so I'm preaching to the choir, but getting 8 was great. Getting 9.5, we still absolutely love. We're still playing it, Jake, like you said, up to 11.5. It's just at some point we have to figure out where is the value falling off, and at 9.5 we still think we got a great number. Doesn't mean it can't land 9, and we're kicking ourselves saying we wish we would have maybe been a little bit faster to the gun there when we saw the 8 sent the message to the people in the Discord. Then unfortunately we didn't send it to them then, and so we can't claim credit for that. We have to play the 9.5. I was going to ask about the pace, and you brought it up right there. As you can see on the screen, the pace, Iowa State plays a whole lot faster than Cincinnati, and I was going to ask if you thought there was anything with that might favor one team or the other. If Cincinnati was deeper into the tournament, I would have said for sure maybe playing that extra game, would affect them not used to playing as many possessions. I'm not sure if that applies here. Didn't know if you had any take on that, or if seeing the first games you just thought that the pace just kind of was what it was, no big deal.
I don't think the first game was going to have that much effect, right? Like these guys have been playing all year. I don't think playing back-to-back, it would be the third and fourth night I think that really comes into play. But if Cincinnati's offense was better, then I don't think the pace change would affect them as much. It's just their offense has struggled, so they need to take their time and find better looks. They've only got 2 guys averaging double digits compared to, we'll call Iowa State 4.5, because Gilbert, who knows if he's playing, he's the 5th guy. So there's just not as many options, so you got to work offense to find good shots for those guys. Like Jizzle James and then the Lucius guy, I don't know how to say his name. They're the only 2 for Cincy that are really offensively talented enough to stick with this just absolutely nasty, swarming Iowa State defense. And I think it's going to be a hard night for both of them.
And I was going to ask him that specifically, if, Iowa State is wanting to play faster, they can obviously do that on the offensive end. How is Iowa State wanting to play faster, a little more frenetic, a little bit more pressure? Like, so how is that going to then affect Cincinnati? Because in my mind, and I'm not the expert here, so I'll let you handle that. But my thought would be, if it's me and I need all the time to get a good look, that pressure is going to just eat up more time and make you get worse looks. And that almost might cause like a synergistic downfall here that could make the offense just really die out. What's your take on that?
I think there's 3 routes. One is Cincinnati turns out has the game of their life. Pressure doesn't bother them. They slow it down, figure it out. That's bad news for us. The other 2 options are great, right? So you have Iowa State, who pressures them, swarms them, creates some live ball turnovers, gets to a 20-point lead, and just kind of cruises, because since he's having trouble just getting the ball up the court. The other option is the pressure takes time. You start seeing longer shots. And this is kind of what happened in that first half, where Cincinnati shot better, was they weren't able to find as many shots, so they were depending on threes. Threes go in, keeps it close. As they cooled off in the second half, Iowa State took off with it. And that, I kind of feel like that's the game we'll kind of see, is either – is Cincinnati starts, I don't know how long it'll last, but they'll hit some threes, get some confidence going, and then that defense, that pressure just wears on you. And when you only have really the 2 guys scoring, both are guards, it's going to be similar to Braden Smith at Purdue, where teams are just body shot. By the last quarter of the game, his legs are gone, and there goes Purdue. I think you're going to see those 2 guys just lose their legs a bit towards the second half, into the first half, second half, and that's where Iowa State really pulls away.
And then we get an added mathematical advantage in this, because Iowa State wants to play faster on offense, creates overall more possessions, and a larger sample size is going to mean more likely that a Cincinnati team can't stay hot for the entire duration of the game, which is, like you said, kind of all we need for Iowa State to just hit a little run, hit that quote unquote kill shot, as fellow Baylor grad Evan Maya would say, and really put this away. So we're going to lay it the 9.5 with Iowa State. That's our game here. Also, if you are interested in supporting the show in other ways, that we do also have a picks only package. So check that out. The link in the show description gets you your first month for only $1. So check that out. Available to first-time customers only. But that could be something fun here. We've got hockey picks, baseball picks coming up. So a lot of fun there for very little risk. So check that out. A lot of good options here. Jake, parting words before we sign off on our first show of the new year, a little bit later into the year than we expected.
Look, I've absolutely loved the hockey coming around. I know enough about hockey to know who wins and loses. Don't really know strategy with it. So your NHL picks and that model has just been printing money, and that has been absolutely fabulous. That's worth it alone just to get in for $1 because you'll make that tenfold with the NHL. And then as baseball kicks off later, next week, is that next week?
I think the first series overseas is next week, and then the regular season is the week after that. I think we're about 2 weeks away.
It's like golf; they just never stop playing. No, it's absolutely worth it, and making money hand over fist with that NHL right now.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun building the hockey model because I got to do a lot more simulation work because that I thought was the best way. I'm always a believer. A lot of my models are very different. I'm always a believer in you want the right tool for the job. And I really thought the end of game scenarios and trying to figure out the overtime and shootout stuff really a simulation model just really seemed to make sense to me. And so I had a lot of fun building that. But anyway, I won't bore y'all with that. Thanks everyone for watching, especially if you're still with us at this point one game and we're hitting 17 minutes. But thanks for watching. As always, we wish you the best of luck, and we remind you that you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.